All right, so today we're diving deep into Atomic Habits.
By James Clear.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a book all about tiny changes leading to big results.
Really remarkable results, yeah, and we're going to unpack all the key takeaways
And strategies.
from this book so you can start building good habits and ditching the bad ones.
One step at a time, exactly.
It's all about those small, incremental changes.
Those 1% improvements.
That's compound over time.
And that's where the book really starts.
Yeah, the first chapter kind of sets the stage exploring that surprising power
Of atomic habits.
of atomic habits. And it highlights this incredible concept, the 1% rule.
Okay.
Imagine improving just 1% each day. Sounds small, right?
Yeah, it does sound small.
Well, over a year, those tiny gains multiply to a whopping 37 times improvement.
Wow.
But conversely, a 1% decline daily can lead to almost no results over time.
So 37 times improvement versus practically nothing.
Pretty much.
That's powerful. It really highlights the impact of consistency, even with those seemingly insignificant daily actions.
So you could be starting from scratch, but with consistent effort, those small changes add up
To something remarkable.
to something really remarkable.
Yeah, it's not about being perfect. It's about making those small changes consistently.
So it's the journey that matters, not necessarily where you are right now.
Exactly.
That's a really encouraging message.
It is absolutely. Now, after laying that foundation, Clear moves on to chapter 2.
Okay.
Forget about goals, focus on systems instead.
Ooh. So how does this systems over goals approach work exactly?
Well, Clear argues that your habits are actually a reflection of your underlying system.
Okay.
If you're struggling with bad habits, it's not because you lack willpower or desire.
Right.
It's often because you have a flawed system.
Interesting. So instead of aiming for a specific outcome, we should focus on building a solid system.
Yes, that supports the habits we want to develop.
So it's like having a recipe for success.
Precisely. Rather than just hoping to whip up a delicious dish, the system is the recipe that guides your actions and ultimately leads to the desired results.
Okay, that makes sense. So how do we actually go about building these systems?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
That is the question.
Well, in chapter 3, Clear dives into the concept of identity-based habits,
Uh-huh.
how your habits shape your identity, and vice versa.
Okay.
He suggests that our behaviors often mirror our current identity. And to make lasting changes, we need to shift our beliefs about ourselves.
So if I constantly hit the snooze button
Right.
and see myself as not a morning person, that belief might be driving my actions.
Exactly. Your habits become a reflection of who you believe you are.
Wow.
So if you want to change a habit, you need to start changing those underlying beliefs.
That's pretty deep. It's not just about changing our actions, it's transforming our self-image.
Absolutely.
I can see how that could be incredibly powerful for making those changes stick.
Absolutely. And Clear outlines a 2-step process for this.
Okay.
First, decide who you want to be. And second, prove it to yourself through small wins.
Huh?
So if you want to be a morning person, start by setting your alarm 15 minutes earlier and celebrating that small victory.
Okay, so it's about aligning your actions with your desired identity, even with those small steps.
Yes.
I'm starting to see how all of this connects.
Right now in chapter 4, we get to the nitty-gritty of behavior change.
Okay.
The 4 laws of behavior change.
Okay, let's break down these 4 laws. What's the first one?
This is where Clear provides a framework for understanding and shaping our habits.
Okay.
The first law is make it obvious,
Make it obvious.
which focuses on the cues that trigger a habit.
Okay, so if I wanted to start meditating every morning,
Right.
I could make the cue obvious by putting my meditation cushion in a spot where I'll see it first thing.
Absolutely.
Okay.
The second law is make it attractive,
Make it attractive.
which is about increasing the appeal of a habit.
Yeah.
We're more likely to stick to things we enjoy,
Okay.
right?
So I could pair something I want to do, like going for a walk, with something I love to do, like listening to my favorite podcast.
Exactly. That's called temptation bundling.
Ooh, temptation bundling. I like that.
And it's a great way to make a habit more appealing.
Okay.
Now, the third law is make it easy,
Make it easy.
which is all about reducing friction and making the desired behavior as effortless as possible.
Okay, so if I wanted to drink more water, I would keep a full water bottle on my desk at all times.
Perfect example.
Making it super easy to stay hydrated throughout the day.
And finally, the fourth law is make it satisfying,
Make it satisfying.
which emphasizes the importance of rewards in reinforcing those desired behaviors. We're more likely to repeat actions that bring us pleasure or satisfaction.
Okay, so maybe I treat myself to a healthy, delicious meal at my favorite restaurant at the end of the week
Yeah.
as a reward for sticking to my meal plan.
That's a great way to make healthy eating more rewarding and enjoyable.
Wow. These 4 laws seem incredibly useful.
They are.
It's like having a set of tools for shaping our habits and making those positive changes stick. This is just the beginning, though, right?
Yeah.
What else does Clear cover in this first part of the book?
Well, right after introducing the 4 laws,
Okay.
Clear offers a practical tip, habit stacking,
Habit stacking.
where you link a new habit to an existing routine.
So if I always brush my teeth before bed, maybe I could start doing a 5-minute stretch right afterward, piggybacking off that existing habit.
Exactly. It's a simple but effective way to integrate new behaviors into your daily routine. And that brings us to chapter 5,
Okay.
the best way to start a new habit.
All right, this sounds promising. What's the secret to starting a new habit successfully?
Clear dives into something called implementation intentions, which involve planning when and where you'll perform your new habit.
So instead of vaguely saying, I'll meditate more,
Right.
I would say I'll meditate for 10 minutes every morning at 7 a.m. in my living room.
Precisely. It removes the guesswork and makes it much easier to follow through.
Okay.
And finally, to round out the section, Clear tackles the inevitable challenges we all face in chapter 6.
Right.
Motivation is overrated, environment often matters more.
Interesting. So it's not just about willpower. Our surroundings play a crucial role, too.
Absolutely. The idea here is that designing your environment to support your desired habits can make a world of difference.
So if I'm trying to cut back on sugary drinks, I should make sure those tempting sodas aren't readily available at home.
Exactly. Make the cues for your good habits obvious and the cues for your bad habits invisible. It's about setting yourself up for success. We've covered a lot of ground in this first part, Atomic Habits, from the power of small changes to the 4 laws of behavior change and the importance of environment design. Stay tuned because in part 2, we'll explore even more of Clear's insights and practical strategies for breaking bad habits and mastering the art of habit formation.
Great. I'm looking forward to it.
Welcome back to our deep dive into Atomic Habits.
All right.
In the first part, we explored the power of small changes, the importance of systems, and how our habits shape our identity. We also unpacked the 4 laws of behavior change, make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, and make it satisfying.
It was fascinating to see how even tiny changes, when applied consistently,
Right.
can have such a huge impact over time.
Yeah.
Now I'm curious to explore the flip side of that coin.
Yeah.
How do we break those bad habits that just seem to stick around?
That's precisely what James Clear tackles next
Okay.
in chapter 7.
Yeah.
How to break a bad habit and why you should start with your identity.
Mm.
Here, he introduces the inversion of the 4 laws of behavior change.
Ooh. Okay, so it's like taking those same powerful tools we discussed earlier,
Exactly.
but using them in reverse to dismantle those unwanted habits.
To get rid of those bad habits.
Okay, I like it. Where do we start?
The first inverted law is make it invisible.
Make it invisible.
If we want to break a bad habit, we need to remove the cues that trigger it.
So if I'm trying to stop mindlessly snacking,
Right.
I would put those tempting chips and cookies out of sight, maybe tucked away in a cupboard instead of sitting on the counter where I can see them.
Exactly, out of sight, out of mind.
Right.
As they say now, the second inverted law is make it unattractive.
Make it unattractive.
Okay, we need to shift our perspective and focus on the negative consequences of the bad habit.
So if I'm trying to cut back on social media before bed,
Right.
I'd remind myself how groggy and unproductive I feel the next day when I don't get enough sleep.
Right. By highlighting those negative outcomes, you're essentially making the bad habit less appealing.
Okay.
The third inverted law is make it difficult,
Make it difficult.
which involves increasing the friction associated with the bad habit.
Okay, so if I'm trying to curb my online shopping habit,
Uh-huh.
I could remove my saved credit card information from those websites.
Yep.
So I'd have to physically dig out my card each time I wanted to buy something.
That's a great strategy. Adding even a small bit of friction can make a big difference. And finally, the fourth inverted law is make it unsatisfying.
Make it unsatisfying.
We want to remove the rewards associated with the bad habit.
So if I'm trying to quit smoking, I could join a support group or find an accountability partner to help me stay on track, making the experience less rewarding.
Exactly. By removing those rewards, you're weakening the habit loop.
These inverted 4 laws seem like a really practical and effective way to break bad habits. It's amazing how we can use the same framework to build good habits and dismantle unwanted ones.
Absolutely. And Clear emphasizes that habit change is an ongoing process, not a one-time event.
Right,
There will be setbacks along the way.
for sure.
But it's important to remember that one slip-up doesn't mean failure.
It's all about getting back on track as quickly as possible
Exactly.
and not letting those setbacks derail our progress.
Now, in Chapter 8,
Okay?
the law of least effort, Clear dives into how to design our environment to make good habits easier and bad habits harder.
So this goes back to what we were talking about earlier with environment design,
Exactly.
making those healthy choices the most visible and accessible options.
Precisely, it's about setting up your surroundings to support your desired behaviors. If you want to read more, surround yourself with books, make it easy to grab one whenever you have a few spare minutes.
It's like minimizing the activation energy
Mm-hmm.
required to engage in those good habits, make it effortless.
Exactly. Now, in Chapter 9,
Yep.
how to make good habits inevitable and bad habits impossible. Clear introduces a fascinating concept called commitment devices.
Commitment devices, what are those?
They are strategies that help you lock in your desired behavior, making it harder to back out.
Okay.
For example, if you want to save more money, you could set up an automatic transfer from your checking account to your savings account each month.
So you're essentially removing the temptation to spend that money
Yes,
by making it automatically disappear into savings.
precisely. It's a powerful way to stick to your commitments even when your willpower might waver.
Okay, these commitment devices sound like a really clever way to outsmart our own impulses.
Absolutely. Now, in the next chapter, Clear shifts gears a bit and explores the power of social influence in habit formation.
Oh, interesting. So our social circles can actually impact our habits.
Absolutely. In Chapter 10, The Secret to Self-Control,
Okay.
Clear discusses how we can use the power of social norms to our advantage.
So if I surround myself with people who value healthy eating and exercise,
Right.
I'm more likely to adopt those habits myself.
Exactly. We tend to mimic the behaviors of those around us, especially those we admire or respect.
That makes sense. It's like having a built-in support system that reinforces those positive behaviors.
Precisely. And conversely, if we're surrounded by people who engage in unhealthy habits, it can be much harder to break free from those patterns ourselves.
Yeah, it's a reminder to be mindful of the company we keep
Yes,
and the influence it can have on our choices.
absolutely. And that brings us to Chapter 11,
Okay?
How to Find and Fix the Causes of Your Bad Habits.
Okay.
Here, Clear encourages us to dig deeper and understand the underlying motivations behind our unwanted behaviors.
So it's about getting to the root of the problem.
That's exactly. Instead of just addressing the symptoms.
He suggests asking ourselves questions like, what need is this bad habit fulfilling? Or what am I trying to avoid by engaging in this behavior?
That's insightful. By understanding the deeper reasons behind our bad habits, we can start to address those underlying needs in a healthier way.
Precisely. And once we've identified the root cause, we can start to develop alternative strategies to meet those needs without resorting to the bad habit.
It's like rewiring our brains to respond to those triggers in a more positive and constructive way.
Exactly. And that brings us to the final chapter in this section.
Okay.
Chapter 12, The Truth About Talent When Genes Matter and When They Don't.
Okay, so this chapter explores the role of genetics in habit formation.
Exactly. Clear acknowledges that genetics can play a role in our predispositions, but he emphasizes that they don't determine our destiny.
Okay, so even if we're genetically predisposed to certain behaviors, we still have the power to change. Absolutely. He highlights the importance of choosing the right habits for our natural abilities and focusing on areas where we have a competitive advantage.
So it's about playing to our strengths and working with our natural inclinations rather than fighting against them.
It's about choosing habits that align with our genetics and our goals. This has been a fascinating exploration of how to break bad habits and design our environment for success. Stay tuned for part 3, where we'll delve into the final key concepts from Atomic Habits, including the importance of habit tracking accountability and staying motivated for the long haul.
Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into Atomic Habits.
We're going to be wrapping up with some of the final key concepts from James Clear's work.
We've covered so much ground already.
We have.
From the power of small changes to the 4 laws of behavior change.
Right.
And their inversions for breaking those bad habits.
Absolutely.
So let's wrap things up by exploring those final key concepts.
Okay. We're going to delve into the importance of habit tracking accountability, finding that Goldilocks zone for challenge, and how to stay motivated for the long haul.
Okay, let's start with habit tracking.
Okay.
We've touched on it briefly before.
Right.
But why is it so crucial for building those lasting habits?
Well, in Chapter 13, How to Stop Procrastinating by Using the 2-Minute Rule,
Okay.
James Clear emphasizes that habit tracking provides visual feedback, showing us our progress and helping us stay motivated.
Right.
It's like having a scorecard for our habits,
Yeah.
giving us that sense of accomplishment as we check things off our list.
I totally get that. I love using habit trackers myself. It's so satisfying to see those little boxes filled in a visual reminder of all the small wins I'm racking up along the way.
Exactly. Those visual cues can be incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
Now, closely tied to tracking is the concept of accountability,
Okay.
which Clear explores in Chapter 14 how to make good habits easy and bad habits hard. He suggests finding ways to make ourselves accountable to others or to systems to reinforce our commitment to the habit.
So if I'm trying to stick to a workout routine, I could find a workout buddy who holds me accountable for showing up at the gym or join a fitness class where I'm expected to be there regularly.
Exactly. Having that external accountability, whether it's to another person or a system you've put in place, can be a powerful motivator, especially when our willpower starts to falter.
It's like having someone in your corner cheering you on and helping you stay on track.
Right. It provides that extra nudge we sometimes need to stay committed.
For sure.
Now, moving on to Chapter 15, the cardinal rule of behavior change. This chapter focuses on finding that sweet spot for challenge,
Okay.
what Clear calls the Goldilocks zone.
Okay, the Goldilocks zone.
Not too hard, not too easy, but just right.
Just right. How does that apply to habit formation?
Well, Clear argues that we experience the most growth and motivation when we're engaging in tasks that are challenging enough to keep us engaged,
Okay.
but not so difficult that they become overwhelming or discouraging.
That makes sense. If something is too easy, we get bored. But if it's too hard, we might give up. So how do we find that perfect level of challenge?
It's about gradually increasing the difficulty as we progress, pushing ourselves just beyond our comfort zone without going overboard.
Okay.
It's about finding that sweet spot where we're stretching ourselves, but still feeling a sense of accomplishment.
So it's like leveling up in a game,
Yeah,
taking on slightly harder challenges as we gain experience and mastery.
exactly. Now, this leads us to Chapter 16, how to stay motivated in the long run.
Okay.
Here, Clear dives into the importance of cultivating a growth mindset and focusing on the process rather than just the outcomes.
So instead of getting fixated on achieving a specific goal, we should focus on enjoying the journey and celebrating the progress we make along the way.
Exactly. It's about falling in love with the process of building good habits and embracing the small improvements we make each day.
It's about finding joy in the journey itself,
Right.
not just the destination.
Now, finally, in Chapter 17, the downside of good habits.
Ooh, the downside of good habits.
Okay. Clear reminds us that even good habits can become problematic if we become too rigid or attached to them.
Okay.
It's important to remain flexible and adaptable, adjusting our habits as needed to meet the changing circumstances of our lives.
So even with good habits, we need to find that balance.
Yes.
Sticking to them when they serve us well, but also being willing to adjust or let go if they're no longer helpful.
Precisely. It's about using our habits as tools to enhance our lives, not letting them become burdens or obstacles.
This deep dive has been incredibly insightful.
It has.
We've explored that entire framework of atomic habits, from the power of small changes to the 4 laws of behavior, change their inversions for breaking bad habits,
Right.
and the importance of tracking accountability, finding the Goldilocks zone for challenge, and staying motivated in the long run.
It's been quite a journey.
It has.
I hope you're walking away with a new perspective on habit formation
Yeah,
and a toolbox full of practical strategies to put into action.
I definitely am. Atomic Habits is truly a game changer when it comes to understanding and shaping our behaviors. And remember, even those tiny changes applied consistently can lead to extraordinary results over time. So what small habit will you start today to vote for the person you want to be tomorrow?